Welcome to Fresh Food Therapy. Today is a very important episode. So you are coming down with a cold and your friend is sick and it looks like everybody in the town is starting to get sick. Most people don't realize, but soup is probably your best weapon against getting sick or getting better if you're already sick. Today on Fresh Food Therapy, I'm going to give you a recipe for homemade chicken noodle soup that is guaranteed to bolster your immune system and make you feel like $1,000,000. And it might even earn you some friends because there's going to be a lot of soup. Are you ready? So this recipe is very, very simple, but we're going to start by making sure that you have the right tools. This is a 20-quart or 5-gallon stock pot. There's a very good chance that you don't have a stock pot this big at home, but you want to use the biggest one that you have. We also have about a 6.5-pound chicken here. You can get them in different sizes. You want to make sure that it's the right size for your pot. What we're going to do is we're going to take the chicken, we're going to put it into the pot after checking to make sure that it's clean on the inside and that there's no liver, kidneys, heart, or giblets that are in the inside. And then we're going to cover the chicken with cold water to about 4 or 5 inches over the top of the chicken. So, are you ready? We put the chicken into the pot and now we're going to cover it with cold water. So what I have 3-gallon pitchers here just so that we have an idea of how much water is actually being used. So 1 gallon almost is to the top of the chicken. 2 gallons, the chicken is covered with about 1/2 inch of water. 3 gallons is perfect. We're now going to take the pot and put it on the stove on high and it'll start the soup cooking. Now the chicken has been pulled out of the soup after it's boiled for about 20 to 25 minutes and it'll be cooked all the way through. What we're going to do now is we're going to shred all of the chicken off of the carcass and we're going to put it then back into the soup. You do want to give it a little bit of time to cool before you dig into it because otherwise you may burn your hands. But if you've given it enough time, it should shred very easily and you should be able to get the majority of the meat off of the bone from the chicken before adding it back to the chicken soup. If the chicken is still hot, feel free to use 2 forks to help shred. It'll keep you from getting burned and it'll help you get the chicken off in smaller pieces. What we're going to focus on is making sure that no bones go back into the soup. So what we're going to do is, as we're doing that, as the pieces cool, we're actually going to shred and put back on the second plate anything that can be put back into the soup and shredding it into little tiny bite-sized pieces. Once you get used to cleaning a chicken, it should only take you about 12 minutes to shred an entire chicken and to get it back in the soup. But if this is your first time, take it nice and slow, go easy, and we'll get there at the right time. There are several schools of thought on adding chicken back into the soup. One school of thought is no skin, just white meat and dark meat. I will be honest, I love the skin, and I always put it back in. We've now shredded the chicken and we're ready to add it back into the soup. So now what we're going to do is we're going to prep the fresh garlic and the fresh parsley. These two ingredients are very important to the dish, mostly because they're going to boost your immune system and remove some toxicity from your body. There's nothing that isn't fantastic about fresh parsley and garlic. So for the garlic, we're going to use quite a bit. We're going to use about 9 cloves of garlic, and we're going to just mince them up fine. Now they will have chopped garlic and garlic in jars prepped for you. You can use that if you wish, but I'm going to tell you that fresh garlic is the only thing that I use. And I think that it not only brings out an incredible flavor and everything, but the health benefits are much stronger in freshly prepared garlic. Once it's minced relatively fine, like little grains of rice sized, we can put that off to the side and get it prepped to go in. There we go. Now for the parsley, parsley takes a little bit of time and it can be a little tedious, but it's worth it if you take the time to do it. What you're going to do is you're going to clean the parsley first by pinching just the curly tops off. That's all we're going to use. And it's going to take you about probably 7 to 10 minutes to clean all of this fresh parsley. But when you're done, and once we chop it and add it into the soup, it'll be well worth the amount of effort that you put in. I promise. Now that we've cleaned the parsley, we're going to chop it. And it's really just a rough chop to cut it down to about the same size as the garlic. You want to mince it fine. It's going to be in flakes, almost like dried parsley, but fresh. Now that we've prepped the garlic and the parsley, we're going to put it right into the pot. So now phase 1, after the chicken is in the pot and starting to come to temperature, is we're going to prep the onions, the celery, and the carrots for this dish. It's really simple. I'm going to start with the center to give me more space. We take the celery and literally we're just going to rough chop it. You don't have to worry too much about the size, but if you are wanting to be particular, about 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch is about the right cut for the celery slices. We're going to transfer the celery into a big bowl and then begin work on the carrots. Next is the carrots. You're going to want to wash them. And once they're washed, it's very, very simple. Once again, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to rough cut them about the same thickness as the celery. I didn't really much care for carrots as a kid. When my mom used to make this soup, I used to actually eat the carrots first, just to get it over with. But now that I'm getting older, I actually like carrots, and they're actually an enjoyable part of the soup. A good rule of measure is to have about the same amount of celery and carrots for the soup. So if you go and you buy a 2-pound bag of carrots, just look for a head of celery that's about the same size. Now we're ready to go into the onion, and the onion is very, very simple. We're going to just clip the top, clip the bottom, peel off the layers we're not going to use for the recipe. And we're going to take those and put those into the pot as well. And now we're going to take the onions, the celery, and the carrots and place them in with the chicken. Let's do this. So now we have the celery, the onion, and the carrots in, the garlic and the parsley in, and it's actually starting to come to a boil right about now. So we're gonna now add the final and most secret ingredient to this recipe, which is the Telma chicken cubes. They're consommé, they're like a chicken broth dehydrated. There's numerous brands on the market, but here's what I'm gonna tell you. Telma has been in my family for about 3 generations now, and we're not changing. They're expensive, and sometimes they're hard to find. Right now, they're $1.99 for 3 cubes. And we use quite a few cubes. We're gonna be using about 27 cubes for 3 gallons of soup. But I'm gonna tell you, it's worth it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the sleeve and we're gonna peel the individual cubes to get them ready to be put into the soup. Now I did get a head start and I did peel the majority of the cubes, but I wanted you to see what was involved. So now we have the 27 cubes ready to go, and we're going to prep the pasta to be entered into the soup in a little bit. I have Barilla linguine. My family, before my mother got involved in the process, was using egg noodles, which is the traditional pasta to be put into chicken noodle soup. However, once the Italians got involved in the process, they were like, what? You take the chicken out of the soup, you use egg noodles, and there's no garlic? So this is kind of a fusion soup between the Jewish side of my family and the Roman Catholic Italian side of my family. So trust me when I tell you this. Egg noodles have their place, but they don't belong in this soup. Use Barilla linguine, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna break it into 4 pieces so that the pasta comes out about 2 inches long, which is just enough to be able to fit on a tablespoon. Anything less and they slide around, anything more and it becomes very, very difficult to eat. What we're gonna do is we're gonna break in this manner about 1.5 pounds of the pasta. That should put enough pasta in the soup that it has a little bit of volume with the pasta in it, but not so that you're overpowering the soup and having the pasta absorb all of the broth. We now have the pasta prepared for the last adding to the soup, and we're gonna take the chicken cubes right now and put them into the soup. Now that the soup has come to a boil, you have to let it boil for approximately 25 minutes to make sure that the chicken is cooked all the way through. During the boiling process, you will see a little bit of film and a little bit of oil rising to the top. It is best to skim that off so that you're left with very clear broth. We'll skim it 2 to 3 times before we're done and ready to add the pasta. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna add the pasta to the soup. We've broken the pasta into little pieces that are big enough to fit on a spoon, and now as we add it to the soup, we're gonna stir it to ensure that the pasta doesn't stick to the bottom and remains in individual pieces. So now the soup is on, and it's time to get that healing energy through your body. It just got finished. It's still steaming hot. We've got our crackers ready to go, and what I'm gonna do now is serve out 4 small bowls to give you a chance to see all the ingredients in the soup. Now the main thing that you're gonna need to do from this point until the time that we're done with this soup is you are going to have to gather as many friends as you possibly can, because you are going to have about 2.5 to 3 gallons of chicken noodle soup, which is phenomenal, and it will hold for a few days, but it's best when it's fresh. So we portioned out the soup for 4 small bowls. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that in order to feel better, you've got to force fluids. So have many bowls if you can do that, and know that you have about 3 gallons of soup. At a cost of about $42 to make this pot, you're looking at a portion cost of about $1.78. and you're going to need a lot of friends. It was a pleasure cooking for you. I hope you enjoyed the chicken noodle soup, and we'll see you again on Fresh Food Therapy.